Team 6, we're going to do Chapter 8 of Lincoln on Leadership, about exercising a strong hand and being decisive. I'm Jake.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Colby.
I'm Allie.
I'm Sean.
And I'm Chris.
The United States was going through a very turbulent time when Lincoln stepped into office. He was elected November 6th of 1860 and inaugurated on March 4th of 1861. By that time, 11 southern and southeast states had seceded from the Union. At that point, on April 12, 1861, the first shots were fired on Fort Sumter in the Charleston Bay, and the Civil War had started. Lincoln was forced to take action. The United States was in a complete state of chaos. It was very difficult for him to make a decision, but he had to be the leader that the country needed.
All right, so authority and leadership. Lincoln was generally regarded as the first modern president. In facing the national crisis, in order to preserve the Union, Lincoln redefined our American president. He expanded on the limits and boundaries of American presidential authority and power. He looked to the Constitution for his authority, and his oath was to preserve the Constitution. And how could the Constitution exist without preserving the nation? What exactly did he do? Let's see. Amidst all the confusion, desperation, and urgency, he took action and took advantage of almost every possible situation at hand. Some of these are the quick war response that he enacted, I think it was the week after the shots had been fired at Fort Sumter. He had the blockade on the Confederate States, suspension of habeas corpus, and then enacting the Emancipation Proclamation and the 13th Amendment.
So as one might assume, the decisions Lincoln made, as Ryan outlined earlier, were very tough decisions. Lincoln was both willing and able to make these decisions, and he went about making these decisions by evaluating each one. He looked at the pros, he looked at the cons, he looked at all the facts, and he evaluated the situations and the consequences of each. Also, he ensured that every decision that he made was consistent with his overarching goals of his personal and administrative goals. And when he did decide that he was going to make a decision, he did so swiftly without hesitation. He knew that the worst decision was no decision, and most importantly, after he made a decision, he ensured that he communicated to his subordinates effectively and fully. So here's a clip that really exemplifies tough decision-making, as we see, and we thought this clip was a part of HBO's Band of Brothers, HBO's miniseries Band of Brothers, and it was a good decision, or a good example of tough decision-making, because war just, it magnifies the effects of poor decision-making. A little background on it is about a company, Easy Company. It's a company of American soldiers, and they were tasked with overtaking the town of Foy, and they were led by an ineffective leader that wasn't making the proper decisions or wasn't making decisions at all, and he was replaced by another commander, Lieutenant Spears, who was the right man for the job. And you guys will see that in this clip.
We're sitting ducks here. We have to keep moving. Spears, get yourself over here. Get up there, relieve Dyke, and take that attack on in. I'm taking over. Sir, most of the company is spread out here. First platoon trying to lend around, but they're stretched out. They're pinned down by a sniper. I believe he's in the building with the casing roof. All right, Emma. Order some grenade launchers on that building till it's gone. When it's gone, I want first to go straight in. Forget going around. Everybody else follow me. Yes, sir.
So as you can see from this clip, Lieutenant Spear was the right man for the job. When he was assigned to go in there, he not only got the wrong people off the bus, he relieved Lieutenant Dyke of his duties, but he got the information quickly from his subordinates, his sergeants. He made a quick decision without hesitation that was consistent with the overall goal of capturing the town of Foy, and most importantly, he actually succeeded, and Easy Company did end up capturing the town of Foy.
So one thing that Lincoln did really well was to justify his decisions, not only to those people that were underneath him, but also to the general public. He was one of the first modern presidents in the fact that he communicated to the public through the press. He gave speeches and statements through them, and then through that, the public was able to understand why he was making the decisions that he was making. In our own lives, transparency is really crucial. You won't have backlash in the professional world if you are clear and concise about the decisions that you're making, and also you make sure that those who are affected by your decisions understand why you're making them. The way that Lincoln dealt with his subordinates was extremely efficient. He had a Secretary of Treasury, Salmon P. Chase, who was extremely jealous of him. He wanted to be president himself. Rather than pushing back that desire, Lincoln helped him to develop his skill set. And he uses the story of the chin fly to exemplify why he did that. So him and his brother were working on a farm or something, and one of the plow horses had a fly that was biting on his chin. So naturally, Lincoln wiped off the fly and continued to work. His brother asked him why he did that, because that was what motivated the horse to work the hardest the most. He uses this to exemplify why he didn't knock off the chin fly with Salmon P. Chase. He considers his desire to become president his chin fly, and that's what motivated him the most. It helped develop strengths and better the company or the government in this case as a whole. Good to Great companies do the same exact thing. Rather than pushing back people who want to move forward in the company, they help them to develop their strengths, and that really betters the future of the company.
Right, so Lincoln had a consistent strategy, yet he was a master of paradox. As the group last week talked about on Lincoln on Leadership, Chapter 6, a paradox is kind of like a seemingly contradictory thing, but something that you can have, it's two things that you can have together that work cohesively. This comes into play with his stance with his generals. He had a very unique stance with his generals. On one hand, he wanted his generals to take action, yet on the other, he would not allow them to dictate policy, which he deemed should only come from him. So he always felt that his generals should lead in the best ways that they could, but he didn't want them making the wrong decisions. He always wanted to make sure that he had the final say and that his strategy for the overall war was how it was supposed to be. He also never surrendered or gave in to the South's demands, even when he was advised to. He was advised to by a Virginian, and he actually ended up giving a story about a lion who wanted to marry a woodman's daughter. He was very much in love with the woodman's daughter, and he went to the woodman himself and said, "Can I marry your daughter?" And the woodman said, "No, your teeth are too long." So he went to the dentist, had them extracted, and then he again went back and said, "Can I marry your daughter?" And then the woodman again said, "No, your claws are too long." So he had those taken out. He then went to claim his bride because he thought the bride was rightfully his, and seeing that the lion was unarmed, the woodman beat out the lion's brains. This was simply to tell the story that Lincoln wouldn't want to give up any ground at all. He wanted to continually advance his strategy and keep all of his forts and everything in order to protect the Union. We also wanted to write this to our Phiro Bs. We felt that Lincoln had a unique stance as far as the control aspect of it. We felt that he would be extremely high on his expressed need for control, probably a 9 because he wanted to make sure to control everything, but also extremely high on his wanting for others to control their own outcomes. We were thinking probably a 7. And this comes into play with Salmon P. Chase and wanting to control him, but also wanting to give Salmon the whatever he felt he could do best in the Treasury.
So one of the biggest takeaways from this chapter, we believe, was decisiveness. Decisiveness is crucial to any organization. Without decisiveness, decisions don't happen, nothing happens, and opportunities are lost. A quote from the book, it provides opportunity. Executive decision-making is not simply a string of individual orders. Rather, it is more of a continuous, uninterrupted process that is similar to the beating of a heart that sends blood throughout the body. Without it, there is no life. We also think this relates very well to our hedgehog concept that we're discussing in class. In your hedgehog concept, there are 3 tiers. In 2 of them, there's the what you are most passionate about and what you are good at. And if you are unclear about either of those, then you will not have a clear and concise goal. If you are unsure between 2 things of what you're passionate about, you might be divided and you might think that you have 2 different goals. And if you are not set on one goal that you wish to accomplish, then you will be ineffective in accomplishing that goal. The nation needed a leader's strong hand, and Lincoln provided it. Decisiveness can be applied to leading a nation, a company, a team, or a group of individuals that wish to accomplish a common goal. That's all.